Hey guys, you trying to design your training program at home or at the gym but don't know where to start? Look no further, I'm going to show you how to build a training program to get you functional, fit, and strong. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Will, here from Miami Spine and Performance in Hollywood, Florida. As you guys know, I'm not just a regular chiropractor, I also help people with their strength training programs. I do remote coaching through TrueCoach. So if that's something you're interested in, please send us a DM or comment or an email and we can help get you started. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you guys some free pearls of wisdom here on how you can start to think about designing a training program. So, you know, in the old days we were doing, back day, chest day, leg day, arm day, shoulder day, repeat, cardio day, whatever the case is. But people are getting smarter, you guys are getting smarter, and you're figuring out that maybe there's a better way to train in order to feel good, be fit, be well-rounded, and put on a lot of muscle. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of how you should start thinking about programming. So it starts with, instead of thinking about, all right, is this a chest exercise? Is this a rear delt exercise? Is this a glute exercise? Think about patterns, okay? So I typically will think about 6 main patterns when you're designing exercises. So number 1 is push, okay? So that's going to be obviously bench press, overhead press, push-up, things like that. Pulling is going to be rows, pull-ups, rear delt flies. Any movement where we're using our back musculature is going to be pull. Squat, right? So that's a bilateral quad dominant movement. That could be a barbell squat, a box squat, a leg press. Lunge, right? Lunge could be a posterior lunge, an anterior lunge, walking lunge, lateral lunge, split squat, anything where we're kind of single leg dominant. Even a step up, I would say, could be put in that category. Hinging is going to be our deadlifting, our Romanian deadlift, our back extension, our hip thrust, those types of exercises, the posterior chain dominant exercises. And then core is going to be, abdominal work, carries, any of the kind of corrective exercises that we're doing, anti-rotation, even dynamic exercises can be included as part of core. So depending on the number of days that you're training, you could either try to do all of these in one day. So for example, let's say you're someone that likes to do 2 days a week in the gym. I would encourage you to just try to hit all of these patterns on both of those days. But if you're someone that's maybe going to the gym 5 days a week, then you can start to bias these days, right? So you can have a day where maybe you're doing a heavy push, a moderate pull, and a light lunge. And then on another day, you're doing a heavy hinge, moderate squat, light core, something like that. But you want to hit all these patterns usually twice a week or so, right? Because we know that if, for example, we do a bench press on Monday, we don't necessarily want to wait 7 more days to hit that pattern, because it usually takes a muscle within 72 hours, unless you really crush a muscle. Within 72 hours, usually most muscle groups are ready to train again, okay? So we're going to start with the patterns. Number 2 is going to be, what type of rep range are we working with? And if you're someone that really wants kind of a well-balanced training program where you're fit, well-rounded, and in good shape, you want to hit all 3 of these groups, right? So power, we're going to consider that sort of maybe the 1 to 5 rep range. And I'm not saying not everybody has to go for 1 rep maxes. In fact, most people probably don't need to do 1 rep maxes. It's not really a relevant metric. But putting some heavy weight on, so maybe we're talking about a 3 rep max chin up, for example. That might be a good example of something that you could test every now and then, or something that you could do in the gym. Or this could be something like a speed exercise, right? So we could do maybe, for example, a speed box squat, right? So we'll do a set of 3 box squats and we'll slowly control the way down and then explode up as quickly as we can. Or if you're someone that's into Olympic lifting, maybe that's a power clean, right? A hang clean, something like that. So we want to tap into that power system, whether we're doing maybe it's a vertical jump, maybe it's a broad jump, right? Something where we're expressing a lot of power and force. And that could be with weight, without weight, dynamic. That's up to you and your trainer and whatever professional you're working with to decide what's appropriate for you. Hypertrophy is where we're going to spend a lot of time, whether you're someone you don't have to be interested in bodybuilding to still benefit from hypertrophy training. So we're going to consider this to be maybe in the 6 to 15 rep range, right? So most people at the gym are living in that hypertrophy range, right? 10 reps on average, something like that. That way we'll get a good muscle pump. We might be trying to take the muscle to failure or close proximity to failure that's usually what's going to lead to that soreness and ultimately hypertrophy, which is the actual growth of muscle tissue. So a good percentage of your training wants to be in that muscle hypertrophy range. And then we'll get into muscle endurance. So muscle endurance, let's say, is maybe that 15 to 30 range, okay? So that's where we're doing things for very high reps. And now certain exercises may be more appropriate for this rep range than others, right? So just as an example, maybe something like a band face pull or a band pull apart. That could be an exercise where we could get into that 20 to 25 rep range, right? Because we're working on the postural muscles of the back, we're working on the rear delts and the rhomboids. So those types of muscles are made for that type of thing. Another example, calf raise, right? We can do sets of 20, 25, 30 on a calf raise or an abdominal exercise. Barbell back squat, deadlifting from the floor, maybe doesn't make sense to do 25 reps, right? We're gonna, number one, we're just gonna crush our spine with that type of exercise. But also other things are gonna fatigue. Like eventually if you have a bar on your back for a set that takes 2 minutes, you're gonna end up fatiguing your erectors, you may break your posture, you may get out of breath. So you have to be very diligent about which exercises you put into each category, right? Most things can kind of safely and comfortably fall in hypertrophy, but doing a 1 rep max tricep rope push down just doesn't make sense, right? These are going to be more full body and dynamic. These are going to be more small muscle groups where we're kind of trying to sculpt, right? So maybe arms and shoulders, those types of muscle groups, we can hit muscle endurance. The last thing I wanted to touch on is the 3 energy systems, okay? So this, if there's anything to take from this, this is where I think people get lost. So most of the clients that I work with, the large majority, want to be well-rounded, right? They want to look good, they want to feel good, they want to be strong, but they also want to be able to, travel to Colorado and go for a hike or jump in a pickup basketball game without getting out of breath, right? Well, in order to be well-balanced like that, we have to make sure that we're touching on all 3 energy systems. This first energy system, the creatine phosphate system, is the one that's going to be explosive, right? So that's everything from, let's say, a vertical jump to a 100-meter dash, right? And everything in between there. So if the exercise or the set takes less than 10 or 12 seconds, you're in this energy system. So we want to do a little bit of work in here, and that's where that power training comes in, right? So that's where that vertical jump, that power clean, the 5 rep max deadlift, the 3 rep max chin up, that stuff is going to be roughly in that creatine phosphate area. Or any type of plyometrics, medicine ball throws, sprinting, if that's something that you want to do, that falls in that category. Anaerobic is going to be everything that's in, that couple of minutes range. So maybe half a mile run all the way down to, again, 100-meter run. So the 200, the 400, the 800, and everything in between. So stuff that takes a couple of minutes. So most hypertrophy work is going to fall under that anaerobic category, but also maybe doing 400-meter repeats on a treadmill, 500-meter repeats on a rower, kilometer repeats on a bike, any of that stuff where you're pushing really hard for like 1 to 3 minutes is going to be anaerobic. And this is like that nasty like lactic acid range. So you want to do a little bit during the week where you're really like gassed, out of breath, you're at that 90% of your max heart rate. That's the anaerobic work. Aerobic is going to be that long, slow, continuous work. And there's a lot of benefits to your heart and also to your recovery for doing this. So everybody should be doing at least 1 day a week that's just aerobic work. And that could be going for a 45-minute walk. It could be going for a bike ride. It could be paddle boarding. But you want to do something in that aerobic phase where your heart's working above normal, but it's not to the point where you can't hold a conversation. It's something that you could probably do for 30, 45, or 60 minutes, okay? So when you're thinking of the context of a training program, again, you want to think about what patterns are we using, how are we breaking up the rep scheme, and then how are we breaking up our cardio work. So in the next video that I'm going to do for you guys, I'm actually going to show you a sample program that I would prescribe for a client and how I use these principles in my own prescription. So if you guys have any questions, or again, if you're interested in remote programming, you don't have to actually live in Hollywood. This is something that I work with people in Texas, California, Illinois. So you can do it remotely if it's something you're interested in. We'll sit down and we'll do a consultation. But otherwise, here's some information for you guys to get the ball rolling. So thank you for watching, guys. Always appreciate the support. Drop us a like or comment. It really helps our practice out. So thank you, guys. Take care.